We've been working with Fujibi for over a year now. They've been supporting or sponsoring this show, particularly entire last year, almost from the very beginning. But in addition to this, we've used their product at the Academy, and I personally have been using it for a number of years now for myself. In addition to all this, they just released, Gary?
They've got a ton of new stuff, but this one is the Last Samurai gi that I'm looking at fujisports.com. They've also got the brand new gamer gi, a ton of great stuff. Check them out, fujisports.com, bags, mitts, spats, rash guard, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find it at fujisports.com.
If you're a long-time listener already, you already know what Roll TV is. However, if you're a first-time listener, you might actually find this very interesting. Roll TV, online video online platform that we actually put together, available at rollacademy.tv for all that are interested and want to take their jiu-jitsu to the next level.
Yeah, I definitely love it. From lesson plans, fully customizable. Most, if not all, the seminars we've done here at the Academy are there too, from high class practitioners. So definitely check it out. And there's a little coupon code too.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to get extra 30% off on the memberships, make sure you type in Roll Radio as the coupon and you get savings.
Who doesn't like saving money? What's up, everyone? This is the last episode of the year, and we will be back with new episodes starting on January 12th. But before we get to the show, as always, please don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. This ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content throughout the new year. On this, the last episode of 2021, the Roll Radio is another legend in the sport of jiu-jitsu, someone who is one of the greatest competitors and coaches in BJJ and creator of the Estima lock, Braulio Estima. Listen as Braulio discusses his conceptual teaching philosophy, the importance of focusing on the journey, not the destination, his "if I can do it, so can you" look at life, and a ton more. Here's the Roll Radio with ADCC champion, IBJJF world champion, Pan American champion, and the 2022 ADCC Hall of Fame inductee, Braulio Estima.
Welcome to Roll Radio.
And we are live.
Yes, we are.
You were laughing, but a moment ago you were really cranky.
Well, you always say I'm cranky, but I'm trying something new, and you're going to be very upset probably, or be the hammer.
Why?
Or the nail. I'll be the hammer. I'm not going to have any coffee after noon, 12 o'clock anymore.
Good for you.
I'm on my third day. I'm freaking out a little bit, but that's why I'm cranky.
Good for you.
So I don't have the caffeine. We'll see how it works. I don't know.
You should have warned us a couple of days ago when you started this.
No, I'm not going to warn anybody. Everybody's just going to be like, you are. What's wrong with him? Why is he such a jerk? Or more so than usual. But that's why I'm trying to cut down on that caffeine.
Well, good for you. Good for you. I mean, that's huge. That's a big commitment. I'm really hoping this is going to work out well for you.
If I was only committed to jiu-jitsu in the same way.
No, you are committed. Speaking of jiu-jitsu, Professor Braulio Estima in the house. We're going international again.
Yes.
How is everything over the pond? How is everything in UK going today?
Everything is good, guys. Good to be here. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Thomas, for the invitation here. As you know, it's always nice and sunny outside. Can you see here?
Yeah, that doesn't look like the UK, but it looks nice.
That's how I like to think of. Come all the way from Brazil to live in UK. You gotta have that thing on the back of the mind.
That's beautiful.
Good for you. You traveling recently. I mean, I see you on social media. You're doing seminars everywhere. It seems like everything is going pretty well on your side.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 18 months. We were very much locked here in UK, and with all the things that's going on, things get very cramped out, and especially the end of the year. It was 6 months. Try to get 18 months being compacted in 6 months.
Yeah.
And yes, here in Europe, things are open in many of the cities and have a little bit of a setback because of this new variant, the Omicron. But it's everyone who is vaccinated and everyone who is trying to get things back to normal. Still some limitations, but yeah, I'm trying to make the most of it. Try to catch back, and a lot of people who are following the growth of jiu-jitsu, especially during the pandemic, they really want to get some contact. In whoever countries are possible, we try to accommodate that.
Yeah, no,
it's good to have it back again.
Yeah, no, and I mean, your presence in jiu-jitsu over past decade, especially, I think, has been very, very visible, especially in Europe. So I was originally born in Poland, and I have some friends in Poland, and I actually know that you have... Bardzo dobrze, there you go. Yeah, and I know you visit Poland quite frequently, actually, aren't you?
Yes. We have some affiliations in Warsaw.
Yeah.
And, my kids, they are half Polish. So I have a good relationship with Poland, a lot of good friends. One of my main instructors who teaches in my academy, he's also Polish, together with his almost, there's no wife because it's not concrete yet, but they live together for all their lives since 15 years old. It's crazy. And I kind of adopted them. And yes, I love the country, the passion, and they really love jiu-jitsu. So whenever I can, I'm there to support you.
Yeah. And so you've seen through your travels jiu-jitsu all around the world. Do you think that jiu-jitsu is different between UK, United States, in some of the other continents, or even individually between the countries, as this evolution, as it develops, continues developing? Do you see changes between different areas or regions of the world?
I feel that everywhere you go, there's a little bit of a difference as normal. I believe that this also reflects on even in the class. When you teach a class, everyone is different. Like if you go down to the core, everyone is different than each other, and that's helped me to understand how to teach better. Especially imagine a spectrum of a class that will be 20, 30 students. That's 20, 30 universes going on the mat, right? When you go to different countries, and every country has a different spectrum and with different kind of people. So the culture are different people, but we all merge by jiu-jitsu, right? I love the jiu-jitsu for the sake of everyone is there through jiu-jitsu. Doesn't matter if you are black or white or yellow, pink, what religion you're at, where you came from, how much money you have, if you're good looking or not. Thank God. It's like it was leveled through jiu-jitsu. And that is difference. Everyone is different. Everyone has the attributes, the good things and the bad things about them. The same way that we go to different cultures, they have good things about it and the bad things about it. And it's about finding the balance on everything. And that I love to focus on the positive. And I learn a lot about every trip I go, and makes me the same way that when I learn how to teach in a group, how I learn how to teach someone that's stockier than me, that's different in my kind of fighting, the same way that when I go to teach in an Eastern European country, I can learn a lot and help me to teach in America, just by understand what goes through the mind. So it's very, very, very interesting. I'm very passionate by what I do, and I try to evolve constantly. And I think by traveling helps me a lot on that.
Well, share some secrets here. So how does one teach 20 different people in a room? Let's just say we have a class of 20 with 20 different individuals. Right? And this is a very common topic between instructors. I even struggle with this sometimes. We often teach the way how we see it as an instructor, right? But then you have 20 recipients, and 20, that's a small class. If it's 40, 50, you do seminar, there's 100, right? You have all these recipients of the information that you are projecting. How do you teach them so they get it?
Man, this is my favorite thing to do, and then that's what I try to specialize myself. And I'm very, I put in my mind that, firstly, jiu-jitsu was my attraction, my first attraction to be the best, to be a champion. But then when I came from, it was always a challenge. No, you cannot be a champion if you're not really Rio de Janeiro. And I like to prove people's wrong, right? Then came about like, but if you are a champion, you cannot be a good teacher. And then I tried to kind of, prove them wrong, because I think the way that I learned jiu-jitsu from where I came from, I had to kind of associate things by concept. I couldn't just follow people's technique only, because I didn't have much technique coming up. So I have to, every time that I used to go to Rio, I used to learn that weak amount of understanding of techniques. And I used to go back to Recife and practice through 6 months. To be able to develop my own way, I need to understand the reason why things work. So even though if I didn't know the reason why it works, I had the reference as the technique as the reference, but then I try to figure it out my own way by understanding the concepts. I like to say that a technique is nothing more, nothing less than it's a vehicle to make a certain concept work. And if you base yourself on a specific way of doing something, if you base yourself on the technique, you limit it to that way. But if you understand the reason why the technique works, then you will be able to adjust, readjust, and take your own conclusions on when you have to do it by understanding the reason why, and you can make as many techniques as possible. So with that mindset throughout all my journey made me who I am as a fighter, made me who I am as a professor as well. In the same way that I try to pass it on, I try to pass it on through concepts, because as you know, everyone is different. We are there on the when you go to the academy, you should never try to be better than anybody else. All you should try to do is better than yourself. We hear that in all kind of motivational speeches for business, for many different things. And it's real, it's true, because the only thing that you can control is yourself. That's the only thing you can control. And so if you try to be better than you will automatically focus on little things that will make you grow. If you focus on being better than someone else, you focus on someone else instead of focusing on your little things, and you kind of divert the real direction. Yeah. So when you learn that way, in the way that I try to pass it on, I learn on how to see what is the common denominator in every single questions that I go around the world. People who is stocky ask this kind of questions. People who is slimmer ask this kind of questions. People who is flexible ask this kind of questions. So when you go down to the core balance, the core of the concept, you can make it however you want. That's how the Estima lock came about. The Estima lock, nothing more, nothing is than toe hold done good, a heel hook done good, or a foot lock done good. It's just, if you understand the concept, you can make it however you want. A kimura and a normal plata is the same thing, done differently. So if you focus on the concept and you teach the person what is the goal of that technique, why the technique works, and what's the key points that I'm looking for, you get to the concept, and they will see however they want, and they can adjust however they can understand.
I love it. I mean, you touched on like 75 different things that I had to write down, because there's so many. But listen, I got to tell you this, okay? This all sounds beautiful. And you say, don't compare yourself to somebody else. Always focus on yourself. But we both know that life is not so easy, okay? It especially when you're on the mat, when there's a conflict and we're trying to escape, submit, pass, reverse, whatever the case is, it's extremely difficult to focus on me versus not focusing on being better than your training partner. Especially if we look at the long-term progress of jiu-jitsu, meaning it does not take a week, month, or a year to really comprehend jiu-jitsu. It takes a decade, if not more. How in the world am I supposed to focus on me? Like, this is so hard.
Yeah, I love this kind of talks and questions. Thank you very much, Thomas, for that. And the thing is, what you said is very true, okay? Because everything that's real and truthful doesn't come easy. Right? Everything that comes fast goes fast. Yep. So real jiu-jitsu is real. So it cannot come from day and night. And when we try to understand by being better than yourself, than myself, that's the only thing that I can control, is not comparing yourself to someone else's progress that I mean, because everyone has a different speed of progress. Of course, when I'm training with someone, I try to win the fight. But before I win the fight, I need to kind of not getting beaten first, right? That's the first thing. If you focus on, for example, we as human, we tend to focus on the end very much. And that can be one of the main lessons that I learned through jiu-jitsu is to be patient. It's something that my dad always tried to teach me when I was a kid. Hey, brother, never put the carrots in front of the horses. He always used to say that, because I wanted to be good now, I wanted to be strong now, I want to be the best now. But then the patience is one of the biggest and best virtue that you should, and you learn. I got much more patience and appreciate a lot more since when I became a father. Because that's when you become even more. But when you're not a father, right? You need to try to figure it out, and then it's harder because we as human we are very reactive. We want to now. We think about the end. That's why so many quotes say it's not about the destination, about the journey. But everyone wants to think about the destination. Yep. When you teach someone passing guard, you think, I want a side control. When I want to teach a submission, people are already going to thinking about the submission. And then with time, you learn that before you do anything against my opponent, I need to actually understand how to be safe in that environment, how I can progress without being caught in that environment, and therefore become a little better than yesterday. So when I think, John is doing much better against Roger than I do, dude, focus you against Paul first that you can handle, and then improve little by little. Firstly, survive. First, try to be able to keep someone first in the beginning, right? You need to keep someone. If I like to say to the people, like, guys, if you want to be able to submit someone from the close guard, the basic method you need to have is to be able to keep someone in your close guard first. Yep. If I cannot keep someone in your close guard, how can you even think about submitting them? If I want to pass someone's guard, first you need to be able to survive someone's guard. If he's in the close guard, spider guard, whatever guard you are, if you cannot be able to survive that, how can you think about passing? Right? If you've been swept, think about not being swept. If you are in a mount, if I want a submission, you need to know how to keep the guy in a mount, and on and on and on. Right? So you need to be able to build the branches on your game before you try to think about being better than anybody. That's the thing, what I'm saying. And also, when I say about that is that everyone has a different speed. I love the metaphor of the popcorn metaphor that I use a lot. If you get every single corn that could even come from the same cob, when you put it to make the popcorn, they never pop at the same time. They always pop in a different time, And I like the comparison of the oil. The oil is the knowledge, The pop, if you get closer to the oil, you have more chance to pop. If you stay away from the oil, you're gonna burn. And some will still pop without it, but it's Some people pop faster when the oil goes. So it's not a race between you and someone else. That's what I mean, is try to become a better version. Of course, when you're fighting, the beauty of jiu-jitsu is that, right? Because it's an individual sport, but we need each other to progress. And then it's a conflict of interest. There's a battle that you are trying to, is a problem solving, right? You're there every day grinding, try to beat the guy, of course. But to be able to beat the guy, you need to not get beaten first. And that's how comes the mindset, what I mean.
Yeah, and I love these analogies that you are using. And, I often even talk about the fact that faster we are, faster the situations pass by us. And then how can we make intelligent decisions when everything is happening so fast? By slowing things down allows us to really make more intelligent decisions, right? Do you think that's why longer we train jiu-jitsu, we slow things down, and often, especially from new students or individuals who don't do jiu-jitsu, have never done jiu-jitsu, they say, whoa, he's flowing so nicely and smoothly, and this guy's bouncing off the walls like a ball, Do you think that is the main reason behind it?
Yes, because with time and try and error, you be in the position so many times, you start to recognize by pattern what is about to happen, and that comes down to a lot of lessons in life, and then we learn that whatever pass, we'll never cry over the spilled milk, right? That's a good lesson, the good thing for life. Because look, if something happened, it's gone. If the guy made a very good grip on you, is done. That grip is gone. If you fight against whatever is gone, sometimes you end up losing the second step. One step. If imagine if the opponent is trying to attack me, and that attack can never happen from 0 to 100 and it's gone. Like there's a factors that happens, right? Some sequence of factors. So whatever factor happens first, that's why it takes time, because you need to recognize what's about to happen. And you cannot, if you've never been there, it takes time. And then once you've been there so many times, you understand the concept, then you figure out that, okay, he did this step, now he needs to do the next step. So he already done that, it's over. If he blocked the next, he cannot complete. Every completion, let's say a submission that I like about a lot, Ezekiel have main 3 steps, which is I hug the head, I grab the sleeve, and then I wrap and I'll choke. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So if I am defending, correct? The guy hugged my head. He grabs the sleeve. What's next? Yep. Is the hand. Yep. So I cannot stop the head. I cannot stop the sleeve because it already happened. I need to stop their hand goes in instead of trying to escape the mount, for example. Yep. And therefore, I play even further on the advanced way, which is if I am attacking, if I hug the guy someone's head, if I grab the sleeve, clearly the guy is going to try to fight against the other hand. So instead of holding the sleeve, I block his hand first before I go to the sleeve. So it's like I play reverse so I can understand the concept. It doesn't matter what sequence was as long as I complete the triangle. If I start A, B, C, C, B, A, A, C, B, it doesn't matter as long as I complete, right? So I block. That's when it comes down to the slow down beat. Why it happens, the slow down? It's because fight is between 2 people. It's not about what this person wants all the time. That is, if I want to attack someone, if I want to achieve something against someone, I need to also deal with what he can do against what I want during the process as well. Because otherwise, you're fighting a dummy, right? That's Absolutely. Why when it comes down to head, you end up, the strongest will always win. And with time, jiu-jitsu is about using the technique and leverages against my opponent. So when you understand what the guys need against what I want, if I block that before I even start doing it, I have a better chance to slow him down, and I can have a better chance to achieve the goal, the final goal.
And we can even take this deeper as far as that Ezekiel choke. If somebody is hogging my head, I already should be anticipating that the next thing will be the sleeve, right? So if I can shut down or if I can react before the sleeve is trapped, now I just eliminated the Ezekiel choke, even though it wasn't so present, even though it wasn't so visible, right? And this is what they call being 3 steps ahead, like right. That black belt can see 3 steps ahead. They can see everything what I'm about to do, but it's
because
really not
so
about
many
that,
times,
right? What's that?
They be so many times there, you know. Yeah. And then if you let me explain another analogy, the way that I like to teach the beginners. And how people, the advanced, will see, how the beginners will see. When I started jiu-jitsu was like back in 1996, right? So this very small town, you know, we just used to just spar at each other. There was no system, there's no progress. And when you start learning when you connect with Gracie Barra, things was getting better. And then I got to understand the real source, understanding, right? And how I like to explain the progress, how we do in our academies, is like this. Imagine if in the first class, you have no idea what jiu-jitsu is all about. So it's like you imagine the ocean, and then we're going to get a little bay. There's a little bay there that you're going to work on that scenario, okay? I'm going to tell you, look, Thomas, you never done jiu-jitsu. This is your board that afloat, okay? I'm going to drop you here in the middle of this bay. Can you see the light on the left side? So that's where you're going to look for to go. This time of the day, on this morning, it's no wind, there's a flat, and there's no current. Just keep walking towards that. Get the float and go. So I give them the coordinates. I give the coordinates to go to the area. Then next week, I say, okay, do you understand, Thomas, that between here and the light, there, when it's low tide, there's a reef that you can stop there so you can rest a little bit there. In between, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drop you that middle, and I'll take you the float away. Now, look, you know that when it's low tide, it's going to be a reef. So he goes, okay, no float. I know there's the light. It's low tide. I'm going to go, there will be a reef. And then he hits the reef. There is a reef. So you start believing. And then later I tell, what if it's a high tide? So if a high tide, then you have to go to the other side, because then you can get on that rock and then go with the rope and then keep them giving lead. And then later, I just need to drop in the middle of the bay. It's fine. Then later I show another area in the middle. By the time that he gets to the purple belt, it's just about dropping in the sea. He'll know where to go. That's how I build my students.
Yeah, and literally what you are mentioning is that you are the guide. You give them the tools, and they need to do the work. They need to find how they need to figure this out, how to adapt this to their own brain, to their own way of thinking, how to paddle, how to get across that water to the destination, essentially.
Perfectly. And everyone will swim differently. Everyone who will have different kind of stamina. Some people will be able even to float themselves. Some others won't. Someone's going to be able to go under the water without the goggles. Someone going to have to figure out a way to go under with the goggles. So, and that's, everyone is different. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how you do it. As long as you get to the shore safe, that's what I care.
That's pure wisdom. Gary, you're awfully quiet today.
I am awfully quiet.
What's going on?
And it's not because of the caffeine. No, I just love these analogies. If we can, you just talked about stamina, and to change things up a little bit, you just rolled for 24 hours for charity. And we here often talk to people who can't, like if you put 8 minutes on the clock, you hear, oh no,
yeah,
and they can't go an 8 minute round. They can dominate for a 5 minute round, but when those extra 3 minutes come up, things change. How do you pace yourself? How do you build your stamina? How do you get through? I mean, not even 24 hours, but through, that 8 minutes.
Yes, I think this is the first challenge that we have when we start doing something that you never done before. I'm talking about, like, imagine, I remember when I used to train jiu-jitsu for the first time, like for the first 2 months, I remember how hard it was to last 5 minutes, and it was really, really difficult. It was like 5 minutes, like an eternity. And as we build our, resilience, our stamina, get to understand that I don't need to put power all the time, because I can play the game. You touch here, touch here, touch here, touch here, and can just play angles. But it's very easy to say when nowadays, right? But on the process of searching those, when you have no idea what to look for, it's quite difficult, right? It's like when we were a kid or teenagers and we try to figure out what course to do on the university. It's quite challenging. You don't even know. You've never been there. It's very easy when I'm now here, you know what, dude, I should just choose jiu-jitsu, would be fine, but until we get there, it takes time. But that's part of the process that's going to develop you, right? But one thing I do is breathe and don't squeeze hard every time I touch someone, because it doesn't mean that if the grip is going to be necessary, only that's with the experience you're going to learn. Sometimes people grip here. If the grip was loose or not, would make no difference. But when you're learning, you go full on all the time. Especially you notice that when you fight in the tournament. Because just for the sake of you think, oh, there's a tournament going on, I'm going to squeeze and hold as hard as you can, that you can you finish. Even when you win, you go, well done, brother. Like a high five. It's like completely no move. It's part of the adrenaline, part of the fear, the panicking sometimes. But it's about understand that you gotta have to build your stamina with time, okay? But if you are whoever trains for 8 minutes, if you are a blue belt, a purple belt, you should be able to last 8 minutes, because you don't need to burst yourself through 100% from 0 to 8 minutes. You need to understand when is the time. That's when you recognize how to change angles, how to move, how to put to the person, even though I'm in the defensive position, how to make my opponent to feel uncomfortable, even though he's in the advantage point. I like to say that the priority in fighting is not the submission or the pass or the sweep, but to make my opponent to feel uncomfortable. When I say to feel uncomfortable, it's not in pain or it's discomfort. Uncomfortable is like, I don't feel good to attack you. I don't feel comfortable to progress, because when they feel uncomfortable before they do something against me, they need to feel kind of comfortable to progress, right? Yeah. So that's how I try to measure my trainings. But if you think, doesn't matter how fit you are, Jerry, if you do a burst of up and down for 6 minutes, you're gonna die. You're gonna sleep. You're gonna be completely wasted, right? So you need to know when to pace your grips, when to pace your core, how your legs, and it becomes part of your understanding on your journey. I like to pace myself. I never waste too much energy on one part of my body for too long. If I feel my left arm is very getting tired, I shift and I change my angles. The same thing with my legs, and breathe. I used to remember that I had difficulties. Just to answer, I know I talk a lot, but I get passionate about it.
No, we're good. We're good.
So, look, I remember one of my challenges when I used to train really well as a purple belt. Man, I used to train 4 hours, like 1.5 hour, 2 hours training competition. But when I used to go to compete in the worlds, I used to gas out like after the 2-3 fights. Gas out. I said, man, something's wrong. I need to deal with that, because to win a tournament is a marathon. It's not just like a sprint on each competition, with each fight. And I was doing well on the first, on the second, the third. I couldn't go to the fourth. So I said I had to do something. And I realized that I wasn't breathing properly. And I was squeezing, and I was like,
holding your breath.
So I got out, and I couldn't recover in time, right? So I put to my mind, you know what I'm going to do? I will breathe loud so I can hear. So I know that I'm breathing. So I start training that in academy, and then I felt that I could last even longer. And then when I start competing on the purple belt, that's made a huge difference. That I remember my last tournament, I went to the finals of my weight division and won the absolute together with Lagarto. And there was 7 fights each category. And that was the differential. It was me listening to myself breathing, because when it comes to adrenaline, there's the crowd screaming, you fighting, and you sometimes get a little worried about what's happening. Instead of breathing properly, you freeze. And that was one of the main things, was breathing, you know.
Somebody told me a long time ago, 20 years ago, somebody told me, made the observation about me particularly. They said, you go around and then you need a round break. You need to relax. And then you go around another round and you need another break. And they said, what if you could take a break while you're rolling? Then technically you could roll for very, very long time without breaks. What are your thoughts on that?
Amazing thought. That's what I did on the 24 hours. Imagine, you cannot burst for long. You can imagine a CrossFit. Imagine after 6 minutes you're pushing bunch, but you're going to stop at some point.
Mm-hmm. But part of the beauty of all of this is really finding these moments when we can recharge. We don't have to squeeze all the time. We don't have to push all the time. We don't have to, honestly, we don't have to pass all the time. We don't have to control. This is Octavio said this, that control is not allowing your partner to move, is putting them in a position where they can move on your terms. So that means the squeezing is no longer valid. It is not necessary, right? If they can move as much as they want as long as I'm in charge. And that's a mind-blowing thought when it comes to fighting in general. So many students don't think in those categories, like you said. And we hold our breath, right? By the way, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you need to, because we make faces while we hold our breath.
Yeah, there's a lot of gestures today. But I think that... the best advice I ever got was I was rolling with a black belt very, very early on, and he just patted me on the back and said, breathe. You've been here before. What's the worst that's going to happen? Keep breathing. And for me, I took that advice to heart, but also I'll close my eyes. That helps me concentrate on my breath. I'm not in a terrible position. I don't need my vision at this point. Close your eyes, breathe. You'll get through it. And then, that last minute or so, you're still going to have something left. So breathe.
Professor, go ahead.
Sorry. Jerry, you mentioned such a good thing there, because on the close contact in jiu-jitsu, you should be able to fight with closed eyes in reality, because it's by closing your eyes and you try to touch every part of your body and just glue any part of the opponent's body so you know exactly what he's trying to do. It becomes something living. Every little muscle that he moves, you can kind of feel by trying to be elastic around them. I use this a lot, special side control attacks and escapes. I usually do with closed eyes because you feel every single part of the body's movement. And this is very important. And one last thing about the bar, the reason that I recover different parts of my body, I save and use it accordingly to how tired I am, because I have lost a couple of times when I was a blue belt, that I was winning everything, and then I gave everything on the triangle choke, and the guy didn't tap. Then after that, my legs was dead. I had all my grips, all my chest, but my legs couldn't follow. So I ended up losing because I couldn't protect myself. So that's why you need to kind of rotate part of the body according to your stamina.
I love it.
Let's pivot this a little bit. So let's go back to the early days of your jiu-jitsu. You mentioned in the beginning, somebody said, you can be a champ, and I love proving people wrong. I see so much of that in me. I love when people challenge me. I love when people tell me, you can't do this. It gives me such a fire and a passion to even to do even more, But I want to pick your brain on this. How did this all start? What was the beginning of Braulio Estima Jiu-Jitsu?
I think I've always been, maybe could be, I wasn't like bullied to the point that I've been down, but you know what I mean? Like I used to remember, like I felt a little bit that I was hanging out with my oldest uncle, and my older uncle, he always like life lessons and how I grew up very fast on real life outside school instead of my teammates, or not teammates, my schoolmates. And I think there was sometimes, I tried to put something across, and I didn't feel that people could understand, and therefore they used to take the mick out of me for them not understand. And then I was in a different level, and that kind of thing got to me from young age somehow. I remember like an example as a teenager. My uncle used to teach me how to drive. My granddad used to have a very big garage, so it was safe and all that. So he taught me how to do it, and I remember that I was. My friends was mentioning, my dad, he can hold in the hill without using the clutch. You guys with the don't need clutch in America, most of you guys, but in the manual, you have to use the clutch. So I didn't have to use the handbrake. So I learned how to do that. The kids, the teenagers was talking about that their dad can do it, but they were finding amazing how they couldn't. I said, but I know I can. Dude, the whole evening, people was taking the mick out of me. But I knew that. So, these things that I hold back, dude, I need to prove this guys, this kind of thing kind of accumulated to me in that mindset, But if there's anything as well, in the movies that I was influenced by, like blood sports, was being influenced of me, like it kind of put me in the situation that, like the humbleness. And I also, one thing, the reason that I started doing jiu-jitsu, I carry on to do jiu-jitsu, was that people used to tell me, I used to see people who used to go to the IBJJF tournament as a blue belt, come back with the third medal and not even talk to no one, like walking like the king of walking like Gordon Ryan. But dude, I said I had that imagination that I wish one day I could just win and show that you don't need to be an arrogant and treat people different just because you want something. Because if you are good at something, doesn't mean that you're a better person than anybody. You don't need to talk down to no one, because that's one of the things that made me. I move a lot of schools, and because my dad didn't have a property himself, and then that made me wanting to appreciate being included. The inclusion made me so well, feeling well in my crew in schools, and people who did include me for some reason, I felt so bad about it, and I wanted to prove them that I can be included. I think this kind of mentality, was from that childhood, to try to prove, hey, I deserve a spot. I can do it. Even though I was told I couldn't, I wanted to show that I can do it. And I'm not want to be arrogant. And then to prove a point that I can do it. And if I show you that I can do it, to own my word and don't be arrogant and to prove a point. I think this was always on my mind since young.
Do you think this was proving it to yourself or proving it to those who made those gestures or those behaviors?
I think it's a little bit, I already knew that I could do it myself, but I wanted to also to show to people that it is actually real possible, that it cannot be just because something never happened before doesn't mean that it can never happen at any time. For example, my point that I was making on the clutch thing wasn't for me to be the conversation from my side wasn't to say I'm better than you, I can do it and you can't. No, because they were so mesmerized that he couldn't, and I said no, you can, because if I can, you can. I say, so you're telling me that you can? Yeah, I can. And I became, you know what I mean? That was the mindset. I'm never being arrogant or try to be a competitor, like to be, I know better than you. But I was more the fact that don't put yourself down because you can. And if you do, don't need to be arrogant about it. That was the mindset.
Yeah, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
But so now converting this into jiu-jitsu or being on the mat, I personally find, 20 plus years, we lose more than we win. There's a lot of small obstacles that we have to solve, and especially in the beginning on, there's a lot of struggle, there was a lot of grinding, there was a lot of figuring stuff out. That had to give you a lot of fire, having that mentality to get through these hard times of getting smashed, especially, you've been on the mat for, 2+ decades. Jiu-jitsu 20 years ago was not what it is today. It wasn't as gentle. I started way after you, and my beginnings weren't so gentle. It was all about smashing, submitting, pressure passing was like favorite pass for everybody. What was going through your mind during these times when you have this fire of I can do this, I'm pushing through this, giving up is not an option, I'm going to prove everybody wrong that this is available to everybody and anybody can achieve?
Yeah, I think I've always had this mentality of never giving up. Like, my dad always put in my mind, every time that I used to fall as a kid, 3-4 years old, stand up and get ready because you might fall again. But the more important is to stand up. That's the mentality. And also, I kind of, I like the idea of you try to improve yourself. If it doesn't matter how the speed it is, as long as you're getting better, that's what counts. If I am getting better, I am carried on. And if I'm not getting better, I'm trying to figure out the reason why. Is this thing for me or not? Like in football, because on a period of time, I wanted to be a soccer player for football in Brazil. And, I wasn't as bad. I wasn't that bad. I could, nowadays thinking, I could have been a footballer, not a Brazil team elite player, but I'll be able to live out of football. I'm glad that I didn't. But through the process, I was learning a lot about myself. I was giving my best, and everyone was saying, "Braulio, but why are you doing football? Come on, man! Like, you're not gonna know. I can. I'm improving. I'm better than last month. I'm doing better. My coach. I'm trying to. I'm always being interested on try to improve." And if I was improving, I would rather die trying than don't try at all and regret for not even trying. So, but I was very fortunate to have people around me. I don't remember if someone told me that, Thomas. I don't know if it was my own conclusions, but I set goals, but achievable goals. Very, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When I was 12 years old, I started doing football, and I started trying with that dream. I wanted to be a footballer, blah, blah, blah. And I was getting close, and I was inquisitive myself. Man, do you think I'm good enough? Do you think I'm good enough? I goes, no, you're okay. But then got to the point that, bro, look, if you're not being picked for an academy when you are 17 years old, you're not going to make it football. So, okay, I got it. Fine. So I'm going to put a target 16 just to be safe. So if 16 years old, I don't get picked, I'm going to have to do something else if I want to be an athlete. Okay, carry on, football, 15. I was doing well. Oh, you have chance. Oh, maybe not. You have chance. Maybe not. 15 years old, 16 came, people that I was worse than me was going through. And people who was better than me, some of them wasn't going through. But the people who was worse than me was because they have a connection with the dad had connection that put them in a better team so they could be seen. My dad was not involved in sports. I said, dude, this kid clearly is better than me. He's not being picked because he has no connection. No, I'm not going to leave until I'm bloody 17 too, because, dude, I'm losing time. So I did the same with jiu-jitsu. I had not jiu-jitsu at the time. I wanted to be a judo player. I wanted to go to the Olympics for judo. And then that's when jiu-jitsu came to mind, was to help my judo. And I insist in judo, and then I start seeing, man, judo, I'm getting good, but not in the pace that I should to be able to be good at something. But jiu-jitsu was the new wave, was starting the wave. So I got just the wave in the beginning. And that was the beauty. I felt that I was improving in jiu-jitsu in a good pace. Therefore, I carried on. Then I wanted to be the best white belt in my academy, in my weight division. Thereon, I wanted to be the best white belt in my academy, in all divisions. Then I wanted to be the best white belt in my region. And then on and on, always setting achievable goals. And as I could see my improvement, it was motivating myself, because I had this conversation with myself. And I said, listen, I will try to be in bit by bit. If I'm improving, carry on. And people say, Braulio, but what's the point? Dude, but I am carry on. I'm improving. So I'm happy with my improvement, Then I went to Rio and I started seeing, oh man, the gap is big. Fair enough. Cool. I go back home. Let's practice more. Let's do better. And then putting the target that I can achieve goals. And I was improving. And I was just in a story. I lost 4 times during 2 years in the IBJJF in the very first round. But I knew that I have the willpower. That was the one thing that I've always had. That was natural of myself. And I've always been very respectful of people around me. So I was I had the mentality of appreciating things that was given to me. And I always wanted to give back. And that made my relationship with people better. And people was more willing to give me information because I was very appreciative. And I also was giving back what I knew. And I was training with my own way, understanding the concepts that I spoke to you about and not following no longer the technique. Therefore, I created new techniques that was putting people puzzled every time I went to it. But even though I wasn't winning. So one thing that kept me going was my first time I went to Rio, was 10 months in jiu-jitsu. I knew I was training jiu-jitsu, but I wasn't sure if, is that the real jiu-jitsu, the Royce Gracie, the Rickson Gracie, the Carlos Gracie jiu-jitsu, is that real jiu-jitsu that I'm doing, or just like something that looks like it? I don't know. Very preconcept of where I'm from, very far away from everyone. Up until the time I never met a black belt. So I went to Rio, trained for a week, lost in the first fight. I wanted to take as much information as possible. I went to the Gracie Barra, first school that I ever met outside of mine in Rio. Carlos Gracie Jr. was there. So I was training as a 17 years old. And I saw Carlos Gracie Jr. there on Monday. Before I go to match, I'm going to do my best here. Train. Dude, I was doing that in the hope that he actually could see me training. I just want to, Then he called me. He go, hey, champ, come here. I said, wow, me, Opa, Mash, how are you doing? What's your name? My name is Braulio. Where are you from? Are you from Recife? He goes, man, that's something about you. Carry on training when you go back. Choose your friendships. Make sure you don't go into the parties or whatever, into drugs and all. Focus on that, because that's something about you. Dude, that means more than the medal, right? And because of my complex of proving people wrong back in the day, I didn't share this to nobody. Because if I shared, people would say the same thing of the clutch of the car. Because if, come on, you're telling me that Carlos, you lost the first fight And you're telling me that Carlos Gracie Jr. came and told this to you. Are you kidding? So, but by that time, I was already being preconditioned to, if it doesn't matter to nobody. It's only matters is I know that he said, and he knows he said. So I took this as a token. And I only shared this later after being already 2 times world champion as a black belt. But stuck with me because that was all I needed to keep pushing myself because I knew that I was in the right direction. So that kind of mentality was through the competition. For the first time I won from my region as a blue belt. I won the Pan American champion for the first time ever, which was 2 years after that day. I won my first fight. Then I ended up winning the whole tournament. And people still saying that was lucky. 5 fights, 3 submissions. I was lucky, but if it was a purple belt. And then I got that purple belt. But if it was a brown belt, boom, go there. Okay, now it's black belt. Come on, it's kidding me. Black belt now, man, is a different level. Braulio crazy. Boom, go. First world championships, I won the world championship. So this pushed me. And nowadays, we have many, many, many champions from my city because they saw that was possible. And that's what I'm the most proud of in my career.
I mean, you are truly inspirational. As I'm listening to you, just from the passion that you speak about all of this to the stories that you tell, it's really mind-blowing the way what was going on in your life and your mind as you go through these experiences. But I gotta tell you, majority of people out there, they don't have that mentality. They don't. They gravitate towards, excuses and finding million reasons why things are the way how they are, and they're gonna say, "Well, you were lucky because you were born in Brazil, and you were lucky because you met Carlos Jr. that day, and you were lucky because you this and this." And there's always something. What in the world do you tell your students to avoid that victim mentality and really turn it around and inspire themselves to get better, to get to these goals, and to go get what they want?
If you search, you find. And then I'd rather die searching than stop searching and be sure that I'm never going to find what I want. And that's why you need to be accountable for your acts. That's accountability is the most important thing. That's the humbleness that comes down to jiu-jitsu. I've always, you cannot lie to yourself. You need to be honest, inside, nobody saw, but the guy clicked my arm. And then how was it? Did he get close to you? And you can say, no, nothing happened. But if you believe that nothing happened, you're going to be lying to yourself. But if you say to yourself, doesn't matter what you tell to other people, but yourself telling yourself, look, man, that was close, man. I need to be careful because he cannot get that far again. You have to deal with that. So you need to learn to be accountable for your actions. And that's what comes down is about yourself. You cannot be blaming nobody. The humbleness that you learn in jiu-jitsu, that is very important. You need the humility that you learn in jiu-jitsu, you need to put in practice, not just say for the sake. Because it's very easy to say, I lost this competition because I had a cold, blah, blah, blah. But then when you win the competition with a cold, you are the first one to say, I won, and even with a cold, I won. You know what I mean? Like, come on. You need to be coherent. And then you need to you need to be honest with yourself. And then again, what happened is the ego is the main problem. Because the ego that stops you going that direction. The ego make you not being accountable. The ego make you creating excuses and become the victim. Because if I, because I can, and you know what I mean? Like, that's the catch. You need to be honest and with yourself. That's the main thing. That's what I teach them. And it's fine to make mistakes. It's fine to don't understand. It's fine to don't develop as fast as everyone. All you need to do is be honest of yourself and give your best and put time into it. And automatically, if you're searching, you'll find. I think it's a combination of all these things that I put it together.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree 100%. And in addition to all this, I would mention even the small goals that you talked about a little bit earlier, right? I mean, if you want to go and compete, you have to do this and this before you get there. If you want, achieve the next level of success, you do need to. And goes off the mat too. If you want that promotion at work, you need to do this and this and this. If you want your family, if you want a house for your whatever it is.
I don't remember who we were talking to, but they were like, somebody said, "Oh, I want to lose 50 pounds." And in his head, he didn't say that to the student, but in his head, he said, "You're not gonna," because they're not going to do the work to lose 2 pounds. Right. 50 is lofty. It's unrealistic.
1
but
pound
two is easy. You can do 2 in a week, and if you do 2 in a week, then you can do 2 next week. And it gets you to that 50. But I think it's really, really hard, I think, for people to be honest with themselves. It's a topic that comes up quite a bit here. And we always talk about, how did it happen with people? Did it happen because of the circumstances they were put in? Are you born like that? You never know. But I think that, yes, you can grow out of it. You can change your perception of self. I think we're talking a lot about self today. And I think you can do that by being honest with yourself.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick story. This literally happened a couple of weeks ago. I haven't seen one of my students in a while, and he's older gentleman with, he has his career and all that. And I text him, I send him, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? What's going on?" And he responded, I'm kind of lazy. I'm going through the funk. I'm kind of, I don't feel it. I was like, yeah, it is what it is, and he was like, and I said, what would be cool? It would be cool if I saw you in the class, and I just left it at that. And then he did show up. And he showed up next day.
Yeah, you put it on him, right?
It's a simple text message can really change the way how we feel. Phone call, text message, whatever it is, reach out, give them a pat on the back, give them that motivation, because it's hard sometimes when we are in that pit of the funk, whatever it is.
Yeah, and then one thing that that's why you need to share experiences that I believe is amazing. I think this is one of the most beautiful things. I've been talking about a lot of people talks about the drive, the everyday porrada, which is the resilience, and then the never give up. Which this is the motor. This is the motor that you have, right? But also, when you appreciate and give back, it makes all the journey much more enjoyable, happy, because the goal in life is to be happy, right? Our purpose in life is to be happy and help people around to be happy as well. So that's, I feel in my place that, okay, my life through jiu-jitsu, I learned so much, and I tried to understand the concepts that made me be successful as a competitor and trying to be a better professor, and now speaking, motivational speaker, or a leader, whatever. And it's important for you to appreciate each other and give back to each other, because this is the relationship that's going to make you enjoy the journey, because it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, right? So if one thing that I noticed that I became so much passion for jiu-jitsu, and because I understand jiu-jitsu the way that I understand. Also, Roger, why? Like, imagine Roger Gracie and me, we came here to UK as young kids, like 21 years old, 22 years old, brown belt, and only train with our students, blue belts and white belts, not Brazilian white belts and blue belts, but UK brown blue belts and white belts. So as Roger, we meet every other week. I live 2.5 hours away from him. And why we became who we became in the sport, because not only we had the drive, but also we had the humility and the understanding of trying to share as much as possible for people around us to be able to learn. Yeah. Because it was sharing that we are learning, and it was by teaching with everything and in the stage of time that people was always holding back because they want to use the competition. So we came here with the mentality of the abundance mentality. We wanted to share without holding back. By doing that, people appreciate you. Then by doing that, appreciate and I give back even more, and I learn even more about myself. And this concept made me understand jiu-jitsu a lot more. And this concept also can be applied in anything, in any relationship, in any business father, son, employee, friends, teacher, whatever. If the two parties has the appreciation and giving back, it's a never-ending growth, isn't it? If I'm appreciating things that you give to me and I appreciate and you appreciate and give back, boom, 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 it's just a go to the sky is the limit. Now, there will be people who won't give back, but then you cannot count on them. But what I'm talking about is that when you have this mentality in yourself and that's the only thing that you can control. Whoever attached to it just adds to the journey. And then this makes the whole things much more sense because it's enjoyable. And that is my part now to own the jiu-jitsu journey, because I know that there are people that are strong enough to take the accountability. There's no people that's not strong enough to be honest with themselves. But then it's down to me to give them the hint, because I've been there and I know that will help. People who put weight on, they tend to blame on the bloody, I'm not going to buy from this company because this company is the size that they make is too tight on me now. Dude, try to understand the whys.
Yeah, my key must have shrunk.
It's very easy to blame others, but that's what comes down to my path. That's my journey. The journey that I had success doesn't mean that I am successful in everything else I do in my life, but I know the journey that I had success. It will teach me to be successful in everywhere else that I do in life. And I do that throughout, and I'm still learning. Nobody's going to learn it all, right? And I'm on that journey to appreciate. I want to be that tree that is helping other trees underneath of do you know that the herb trees, they help up to 46 other trees that cannot reach the surface to get this photosynthesis. And the plants are one of the most successful organisms in the world. They are the oldest ones and the one that lives the longest 3,000 years. And they are one of the most selfless beings. They give plants their food to others, fruits, shelter, they medicine, oxygen, you name it, and they help each other, and they work as a unity together. So I want to be that herb tree in everywhere I go, and therefore makes my life much more enjoyable, and it's not become about the destination anymore. The journey becomes amazing.
That's beautiful.
Professor, if you had to pick one of those two things, which one do you think is more important? Focusing on the things that we need to work on, or celebrating things that we do well?
Man, honestly, I would, if I have to pick one, first, no question.
Focus on the things that we got to work on. Always improve.
Yeah, that's not even question. I don't even think twice, because that's how I live by. I will tell you a little story if I have 5 minutes.
Please.
The first time, my first attraction, as I told you, I wanted to be good in something in sport. I wanted to be an athlete. That's my attraction for the football. I didn't want to follow the system. I wanted to do something that I really enjoy doing. Because I knew it that if I do something that I enjoy, on the good and the bad, I will carry on doing it anyway. And then I wanted to find something that I wanted to be a sportsman. I didn't want to go academic, because I got I moved so many from school. I wasn't doing well because of the changes. So I felt a little bit, man, I want to do something that I can relate, right? So I wanted to be the best. And guys, in 2009, I became the 100 times more than I could ever expect or dream of. I became I became the best fighter in 2009 of the whole year, from the world. It's much more than the way that I won the Worlds, the ADCC, submitting everyone, how I did it. It was beyond expectations, beyond dreams. But when I finished, it was amazing. When I look back, wow, it was a cool story, amazing. I would go back, I'll do the same, I'll never change. But it wasn't fulfilling as I thought. It was fulfilling, but not as much as I expected to. Because I put that so much on the higher goal that I did so much more than I expected. I expect that would be at least give me, dude, that's it. And I didn't feel. So I was missing something. So this is my mentality. It's been always like that, because every time that I achieve something, that means I climbed the mountain. I didn't like the idea of going down. I wanted to find another mountain to climb. I want another mountain to climb, because for me, I've learned, and the same thing, like it's not over to cry spilled milk. Spilled milk is a bad thing. Something happened that we didn't want it, so don't forget about it. But also, I'm not a museum. We say in Portuguese, whoever lives out of past is museum. I'm not a museum. Whatever pass, let's try to become better, because then you can reach your full potential. And if whatever you reach wasn't fulfilled, you need to find other things that's going to fulfill. And that's what I find now. It's a mountain that I'm never going to stop growing, because it's beyond myself. I'm on a journey to spread this kind of positivity, using my story as a kind of an example, as a metaphor to help people to become a better version of themselves.
Beautiful. I mean, I want to keep going because
let's do it.
But listen, before we finish this, at the end of each episode, we have what we call five rapid questions. They are very short questions. Tell us first thing that comes to your mind. Some of them are funny, some of them are less funny, but always interesting end of the conversation before we finish this up. Reddy is going to take a lead on this.
Yeah, and don't let me forget.
Do you have ABC or?
Nah, we'll just go.
No. You want to pick your brain.
I'm only joking.
No easy answer. Not multiple choice. And Thomas, remind me, we're going to talk more about this spilled milk thing, because this is new to Thomas. I brought it up to him the other day, and he was like, I've never heard that before. I don't know what you're talking about. So thank you for helping me out with that. Number one is, what was it like the first time you stepped on the mat? Jiu-jitsu mat specifically. I know you did judo already, but what was it like when you stepped on the mat for jiu-jitsu?
Do you remember the very first day?
Sorry?
Do you remember the very first day?
Yeah, I remember the very first day. It was in a very small canvas mat, and there was about 3-4 people, white belts, discussing techniques, and I just borrowed gear of some friend of mine, and then we went there and just learned the armbar's choke, and then we just kind of started grappling. It was pretty cool. It's different and very humbling, but something that I think I can do that.
Nice. I don't think there's much that you think you can't do. So, our second question comes from a listener. Number 2 is always from a listener. And who was your best instructor during your journey?
I think I have plenty of them, like on the journey. And I think, man, do you know the true story? Because I've always been away from the crowd, and I don't have one specific main one. If I put it all together, when it come out now, okay, Roger was amazing instructor. But why Roger became my, because if I could answer in general, all my teammates that I trained with were my best instructors. That's what I learned the most, was by being inquisitive, by asking, feeling, and people who I had full contact. Because the instructor, sometimes you need to teach a class for 30, 40 people. They're not going to give you full attention. So I learned how to drink from everyone as possible, So I don't have one specific, but I think the biggest instructor for me was all my teammates that we hung out together, learn, exchange knowledge then.
That's great. That's a great answer. Number 3, have you ever wanted to quit?
No. That's sometimes, but not deep inside, I was, I had enough. But that tomorrow you're going to wake up. It's like when you go, I'm never going to drink again. I'm wondering about the coffee here. You say, I'm never more coffee anymore.
Well, I didn't say anymore. I said not afternoon.
Right, Thomas?
I'm already making excuses.
Notice that I didn't fight him on this. I didn't say anything. I said, I hope it works out for you.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I never said like I want to quit. And I've always, the reason that I carried on in jiu-jitsu, and all my teammates from my generation, they didn't, is because I used to think about, funny because it's the age that I am now, I used to think, man, I wouldn't forgive myself if I am 40 years old and I look back and see what I could have done. So now I'm living my future back then that kept me going. That's my mentality.
Do you remember one specific instance where you were like, man, this was close? Like, I don't know.
It was as a purple belt. I think it was my second tournament in Rio, and I just I trained all the hardest that I could, and what through expectations. This one, the second time that was expectation, that was more because I already have few learned lessons for expectations, but that was like, man, I'm supposed to be good, and people were improving better than me. And that's when it was one of my lessons about, it's not about whoever gets there first, it's as long as you get there on your own time. And that was my lesson. But that was like, I gave so much time training. I wasn't even paying attention much to my school. I was just giving all my good for jiu-jitsu, and I got there and I gas out, and that's the breathing thing that I spoke about was exactly that time, the purple belt. But then I start learning, I'll put less and less set the goals a little lower. That's my thing, But mainly, the first one was when I thought I was going to get the blue belt. I got my blue belt for the seminar. I bought a blue belt, put in my bag, and went to the seminar as a white belt, 3 stripes, knowing on my mind that I'm going to get the blue belt. That's it. It's blue belts in my time. I'm beating everyone in my academy. Is my time. Go to the seminar. I don't even remember what the seminar was all about. All I was thinking about was the bloody blue belt. Got to the end, the coach didn't give me the blue belt. I passed in front of him 3 times just to make sure that he knew I was there. Hey, coach, how you doing? He goes, hey, Braulio, I'll see you tomorrow. I said, God damn it, he knows I'm here. I go back home, right? I throw the belt, the gi, went to the shower. I cried my eyes off. And I told myself, I'll quit. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do jiu-jitsu anymore. Forget about this thing, whatever. For the first time in my life, in that beginning, by then, I stayed 3 days without training. And then I go, the 3rd day, I start itchy. And I said, the accountability lesson there, okay, Thomas. I go, I look at myself in the mirror. I said, bro, you're like, okay, cool. Fair enough. I accept. I'm going to train. Now, you decided to go training when you told you're not going to train anymore. And the reason that you didn't want to train is because you didn't get your blue belt. So from now on, you got to be honest with yourself. If you're going back there, you cannot expect the bloody blue belt. So from now on, don't expect no belt, no grade. Go there to train and forget about anything. If it's the time we'll go, yes. If not, it's go there for training. That was the deal that I had with myself. But that I quit for 3 days then. But then since the expectation was getting
3 days.
But I'm glad I asked you, because that's an awesome story. I love the fact that you brought your own belt. I love it.
That's confidence.
It didn't work. It was a hit on the face. Expectations less than that.
That's great. All right. Speaking of belts, describe your feelings when you received your black belt.
It was very good. It was interesting because it wasn't given in hand. It was by the phone.
Oh, really?
By Carlos Jr. Yeah, because I was here.
Okay.
And I was training jiu-jitsu here as a brown belt. Roger was already a black belt for a year or so. And, it was New Year, January, and Master Carlos called me. And they said, bro, look, I want to speak to you. I won't be able to see you before whatever. It's time for the next stage. I said, oh, for real? It was a funny story because at the time we had this costume, which I don't agree, of hitting like with the whipping, right? Yeah. Which I think is completely selfish mindset for people to celebrate others by hitting them for their own gain. That's so stupid, but that's the culture that we had back then. And then I remember that I brought the culture to Birmingham. And then as a brown belt, I give blue belts, white belts, I was whipping everyone. And then I go back home on Monday. And then I say, with the black belt. And then I said, what? You got the black belt by Carlos Gracie Jr. gave me? I said, no way. So did he? Davey one took the belt and whipped the hell out of me. I said, hey, but the black belt is not allowed. Yeah, right. I didn't have time. It was so fast. But it was good. It was good, but it wasn't as good as when I got my blue belt. That was kind of the taste.
How long was it?
Really,
how long was it between those 3 days where you quit and then receiving your blue belt? How long of a time period was it?
2 to 3 months.
Just, you had to wait a little bit. Yeah. It wasn't right around the corner.
But still, for me, it was an eternity up until then. But then after that, I was okay. But it's like this funny because it's the same feeling. Do you know when you work really, really hard for something, you know, and the blue belt was special because I already gave up to expect from it. And I'll say, you know what? I will just do it to my belt. And it suddenly came. It was a very good surprise, right? The black belt, it was an amazing surprise. It was just the proof that you are on the really right track. But I didn't, for me, it was a weird feeling because I didn't feel like a black belt then. And I won the World Championships then. And I still didn't feel like I was a black belt. I was like, looking at me in the mirror, am I that black belt that when I was a blue belt, I used to look up to? Am I really the guy? Because that's what I wanted to be. I didn't want to just have the black belt. I wanted to be the black belt that was a black belt as a reference. It took me a while. It took me 3 years as a black belt, you know, to feel like, okay, you know what, I deserve, because it's like now you have a degree, go teach but I didn't even know jiu-jitsu much, you know, on my mind, you know. So and then on the same mindset, one of the titles that brought me so much joy, it was the first time that I ever won as a blue belt in the IBJJF, man. I have the medal. Like I felt, I'm not going to say that was more, but was no different than the world title. It didn't, because for me, the blue belt was my world. It was my universe. And I became the best on that. On my level, was good. I overcome my level. And that was beautiful. And there was so much meaning because it showed that it's possible. I can do it. So it has a lot of hope and fantasy and dreams together with that blue belt, you know?
That's great. Awesome. That's great. And then the last question is, do you wash your belt?
No. No. But to be honest, as time as go by, I didn't. I have many belts now, and if someone, I used to be as a problem, don't wash my belt, but now if it gets washed, it's not gonna be. I'm not gonna be upset anymore. You know, I feel like
your wisdom won't wash away.
Yes, I'm confident that I think I hit the point that I know what I'm talking about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, Professor, this was amazing conversation with so many funny and interesting and really a lot of gems here. I have taken a lot of notes. We do appreciate you spending your time with us, and I know how busy you are, and we appreciate being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. We always talk about how we think or how we expect the conversation is going to go, and this is another one of those ones where it just went in a completely different direction, but it was a great one. So thank you so much. We didn't get to talk about a lot, so hopefully maybe somewhere down the road we can have you back.
Yeah,
beautiful. For sure. Man, Jerry, Thomas, it'll be awesome. These kind of conversations are things that I'm on the vibe at the moment to talk about. You know, I like to use my journey as a little bit of inspiration. Not that it's not to show that I'm the best on anything, but that it's possible to anybody. You know, and then one of the big thing is that appreciation, give back, help each other, you know, because this will make you as good as you could ever be to. And let's be that hub tree. Let's be the hub tree, helping each other and still grow. It doesn't want to stop you growing. And thank you very much for the questions. Did have a blast. And I hope you guys have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll see you around.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. Happy holidays. Whoa. We are not done. We have a gi to give away. This is the last Fuji gi that we have available. And I just want to say before we give it away, thank you so much to everyone at Fuji for helping us out with this. It was a huge success. So many people just ecstatic, over the moon over their free gis. Go to fujisports.com. Check out what they have. A ton of stuff, amazing new stuff. Anything you need, like I said before, to get you through your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com. Now, I already went to the random number generator, and the winner for this month, the last gi giveaway is Tony. Tony, check your email. You got 72 hours to respond to me. And once you respond with all the information needed, that Fuji gi will be on its way to you. We got a ton of cool stuff coming up with Fuji for the new year. Stay tuned, and we will see you next year.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.